Mario Kart 8 was first released in May 29th of 2014. We are nearing upon its 10-year anniversary and the game has just finally been finished. This game has insane longevity. I've been playing this game probably since it first came out. And while I may not be the biggest competitive player, I kind of think myself pretty decent, and I am definitely one of the biggest fans of this game. I have so much history with this game. I've put a lot of effort into this game, a lot of time, a lot of quality time with my friends, just a lot of love in this game. Hearing DLC announced for this game when they were going to double the amount of tracks was comparable to the birth of my firstborn son. For the longest time I thought this game was dead. I was hoping for a Mario Kart 10, and when I heard that it was going to be the same game with more tracks, I know a lot of other people were disappointed, but man, I was excited as hell. Now listen, I know, when I first saw that first DLC wave, I was a little disappointed, just like everybody else. But you know, they kept coming out with bangers, like 3DS Rainbow Road, Squeaky Clean Sprint, and got all these cool Wii tracks and tour tracks, all the interesting design. I'm like, man, this is some good stuff. Now that the game has been officially finished, we've got through all our DLC, it really got me wondering, you know, how do all these tracks compare against each other? When the game was first only 48 tracks, I had a whole official ranking for this game. 1 through 48, everything was completely ranked. I knew as soon as the DLC was released that I had to extrapolate this to the whole game once it was finished. I think this is going to provide some very interesting insight into kind of how the original game holds up to the DLC, because a lot of people throw some trash at the DLC, you know, the graphics aren't as good, you know, it's just some of the stuff isn't quite as well polished, there's a lot of kind of janky stuff that you get along with, but, you know, let's rank all these tracks, let's figure it out. How does the DLC compare to the original game? We can also discover some things about how all the different games compare. You know, how do the SNES tracks compare to the N64 tracks? How do the tour tracks fit into everything? You know, even more, how do all the cups compare to each other? Like, what's the best cup? What's a trash cup? I mean, we all know the mushroom and shell cups are trash. But, like, what's also a trash cup? And what's a great cup? I think we can figure this all out with some very detailed statistics and ranking. Okay, but how are we going to build these rankings? Now, first of all, something you need to know about me. I am a big nerd. I'm a computer scientist. I love statistics. So I'm not going to go with just some bozo tier list, A through F with S. That's too nebulous. There's just kind of a couple discrete levels. No, we have to go more in detail with this. Here's my approach. I'm going to be ranking all of these tracks based on 5 categories. There will be music, background visuals, course visuals, track design, and vibe. First, let's make a distinction between the background and course visuals. Course visuals are going to be anything that you can interact directly with during a race. So that's going to be the actual ground that you're driving on, any kind of obstacles, barriers that you're going through, and then background visuals is everything else that you can't directly interact with. Vibe also needs a little bit of explaining. You know, a lot of people have history with this game, and they have a lot of different experiences, different ways that they feel about the tracks. So this is just kind of my personal feeling about every track. You know, when somebody clicks a track and we're about to play it, how excited am I going to be to play this track? Do I have any kind of funny stories or any kind of relationship with this track? Maybe some of my friends really like this track and we played it all the time together. So that's just kind of how this goes. Of course, the track design is way more important than course visuals, so I've added a weighting system here. So what I'm going to say is the track design is 50% more important than the music is twice as important as the background visuals are 50% more important than the vibe, and the vibe is twice as important as the course visuals. Now I know that's a lot to take in, but basically just everything has a certain ranking. From least to most important is course visuals, vibe, background visuals, music, and track design. So basically I plugged this all into some calculator to have all the weightings, and every single track I will rank directly 1 to 96. So all of these tracks will have some value between that. It'll get multiplied by the weighting factor, and then all of these weighted scores are added together to get the complete weighted average of a track. And that will be the official ranking of the track. Whichever track has the lowest weighted average will be ranked highest. Whichever one has the largest weighted average will be the lowest. If this sounds like an insane amount of work, it was. Me and my boy Eathan Klar, he and I are big Mario Kart fans. He helped me a lot with this. Leading up to the release of the final wave of DLC, we spent probably about 4 hours each night of that week playing through all the track, writing down notes, and then deliberating on all of these categories. It was a labor of love. We spent a lot of time pushing back our school assignments near the end of this semester. We are both in college, and we have so much work, but Mario Kart is more important than work. So here's how this video is going to go down. I am going to go through all of the rankings from lowest to highest, and then we will go through all the superlatives. Who was the highest ranked for music? Who was the highest ranked for track design? And then we'll go through and look at all the cups. Who is the highest ranked? And then we will finally compare the original and the DLC tracks. So as I'm going through these tracks, I'm just going to put up some footage of me and sometimes Eathan playing. Don't ask how we got this footage. All I can say that is I definitely do not have a capture card, but it is undeniably my footage. Just as a warning, like I said, I'm not a professional player. You're going to see some questionable playing from me, some bad playing from Eathan, and some absolute trash playing from me in the last 18 tracks. We recorded these tracks over the course of one whole day, and I was up until 4 in the morning. I was falling asleep at the wheel. This is dangerous driving. I do not recommend doing this at home. I'm also recording a lot of these video clips in 1 or 2 takes. This is all very improvised. So if I say something that doesn't make sense, I'm probably going to correct it on the screen, and I apologize in advance. Alright, let's get into the rankings. Number 96, Toad's Turnpike. The background visuals here are pretty abysmal. You've got the city in the background, but all that's really back there is some lights and some ads. And for the music, it's got a good beat, but it's pretty repetitive. You're gonna see in this list that I really hate these stupid car levels. It's really annoying to play well and get destroyed by a moving car. Especially when you're going around these turns in this course, you cannot see where you're going if you're going to run into a car. They do have a good result on the course visuals though, they're pretty interesting, but the vibe here is pretty bottom for me. I'm from New Jersey and this reminds me way too much of the New Jersey Turnpike. My New Jersey friends will say that's why they like it, but no, it sucks. So this is very deservedly in last place. Number 95, GBA Sky Garden. This one, as you'll see with many of the tour tracks, has terrible background graphics. You got these low-res vines, a couple airships, but if you look down, there is literally nothing down there. The skybox is boring as hell. Same kind of thing for the course visuals, there is not a lot here. You got the slightly interesting tile design there, and you got some of the vines, but the clouds, man, what is this cloud texture? I do not like this. It's all weird and moving. Yeah, look down there. There's nothing down there. Track design is also not interesting. You got that one shortcut at the end, and you got a short one here at the beginning, but these leaves are so bouncy. So weird. Yeah, music as well. Pretty similar to Toad's Turnpike. Not a whole lot going on. And vibe is also not there. Just based on the style of the course, there's not a lot interesting going on. Number 94, Boo Lake. Another GBA course we got here. You can see right here the background visuals are just as terrible. You got trees, some low-res hills or rocks. You got the moon, which is pretty cool, and you got a castle, but all that stuff is pretty low-res in the background. As for the music, this is even worse than the previous entries. It is not interesting at all. There's a little bit of a beat here, which is good, but that's about it. Course visuals also aren't great. It's all just wood. You got some boos and you got some bonefish, but that's about it here. Surprisingly, the vibe isn't too low. I don't know, I don't mind this stage. It's pretty fun to play. But that's about it here. Track design, there's that one good shortcut, so it's not terrible, but other than that, there's not a whole lot going on here. Number 93, Choco Mountain. The music is definitely the best we've had so far. It's still not great though. Kind of just that same melody over and over again, and the instrumentation is not my favorite. Background visuals, again, are not good in this stage. You have this cave here, you got some of the interesting crystals, but the actual textures are just, they're really bad. And obviously you can see out there's just straight up fog, and there's a couple mountains, but there's really not a lot going on here. Course visuals do a little bit better for themselves because you got the rocks, but again, it's just some plain old dirt. I'm not really sure what they were going for here. Track design, again, is not great. You have a couple shortcuts, you got that nice one in the cave. It's a little bit interesting to dodge the rocks, but as with many of the other ones here, not a lot going on. My vibe as a result is pretty low. This is from the first wave, and I was not having it with this stage. Number 92, Baby Park. I straight up hate this stage. You can see it's at the bottom of a lot of my rankings here. The main reason for that is the track design. I hate the track design on this stage. It's just way too chaotic, and I feel like there's not a lot of skill going on here. Obviously you can see I'm trash at these shortcuts, but a lot of it is just getting hit by random items, and yeah, too much chaos for me. The music is a little too chaotic for me as well. It makes me feel like I'm going crazy. Course visuals are also really not interesting. You just got the red and blue, and I don't know, I'm not a fan of it. The saving grace of this stage is the background visuals, though. It's got a really cool amusement park in the background, so that does help it from going dead last. But you can see, based on all the other stuff, this is dead last for vibe for me. I hate this stage. Number 91, Sherbet Land. We're starting to get into the point here where we don't have any trash tracks. They're just really not that interesting. So the music here, it's okay. Again, it's not super interesting. Not a huge fan of the instrumentation here. The background visuals are decently interesting, actually. You know, you got those fireworks. You got a lot of cool stuff with the snow and everything. And actually, the course visuals are a big win for this stage. You got the Shy Guys, you got the snowmen, you got a little bit of different like ice caverns and such, and you got the underwater. So that's a good win for it. The track design, though, is not interesting. It does have a lot of split paths, but most of them are just obviously slower, and it doesn't really add any interesting depth or interesting decisions into the gameplay. The vibe is also pretty low, just not a big fan of this stage. Although I do like winter, so it's definitely a boost for it. It's got some good vibes with the lights and the snow. Number 90, DS Mario Circuit. The music is actually pretty decent in this stage. It's not terrible. It's got a good beat. The background visuals also do have a little bit going on here. You know, you got the Peach's Castle here. You got the New Super Mario Bros. Hills in the background. You got the nice forest with the nice light rays in it. I really don't like the course visuals though. The Wiggler is a bonus, but man, what are those piranhas? I cannot stand the way they spit their fire. It's too weird for me. Track design also is not super interesting. You got that one shortcut where the piranhas are, but other than that, it's pretty straightforward of a track. Vibe is pretty low down there for me. I don't really remember this one from DS, though I did have DS as a kid. This one kind of slipped under my radar, and I don't have any strong feelings about it. Number 89, Moo Moo Meadows. Its actual placement is right with the music. The music is not great, but it has a little bit of a decent beat. The course visuals and the background visuals are actually tied. They're not super high, but they're up there. You know, you got the interesting cows, you got the nice sunset, you got some farms in the background, you got the windmill, so it's pretty decent. Very, very, very nice. You also got the Monty Moles there, you see, so not too bad. The track design isn't terrible. You've got the nice shortcut across with the cows, and you got that got the danger of the cows with you there. And it is nice that they added the glider part in here, but it's pretty short. There's just not a lot going on as we see with a lot of these tracks. The vibe is decent, you know, it's from Mario Kart Wii, so you can't go too wrong with that, but it wasn't necessarily my favorite track in Wii that they ported to this game. Number 88, Sunset Wilds. The music is actually pretty okay for this. I'm a trumpet player, so you gotta love the trumpet features. You'll notice there's a lot of trumpet bias in my music pickings, but this is my ranking, so I'm not gonna hear it. You can rage at me in the comments, I don't care. The background visuals are pretty bad. It's like Calamari Desert, but it's got no train, and it's more low res, and the skybox is not as interesting. So it's down there. Course visuals are pretty decent though. You got those minor Shy Guys. You got the interesting like slippery parts in the road. Yeah, it's pretty decent. In terms of the track design though, it's not super interesting. You do have to dodge the Shy Guys, and the slippery track makes things a little bit more interesting. But there's not anything major here really. Vibe though is pretty good. I don't know. I kind of like this stage. It's fun to play. It's got a nice mood to it, so it's decently up there. Number 87, Excite Bike Arena. I know a lot of my boys are not going to like this placement. I got a lot of people who are fans of this stage, but let's be honest, it is not that good. The background, you got the grandstand with the low-res fans. That's a classic for Mario Kart, but the grandstand isn't super interesting, and outside of it, there's literally nothing going on besides a few buildings. Personally, I do not really like the track design on this stage. You get some interesting decisions, and there's a lot of coins, but there's really not a lot going on. If you wanted to play something like this, you could just go play a NASCAR game, man. I don't know. Yeah, course visuals are also pretty uninteresting. Just got some track and some mud. Music is pretty interesting. I do like the vibe that it gives off, so that's pretty neat. And actually the vibe is pretty high on this one. Like I said, I got some friends who like this stage a lot, so we play it a lot, and I vibe with it. But the actual overall is not very high for this one. Number 86, GBA Mario Circuit. This one was also pretty low along with DS Mario Circuit. This is probably one of the worst background visuals in the original game. If you look out there, there's basically nothing going on besides the trees and a couple of those hills. It is not great. I'm a fan of the music on this one. It's pretty up there. It's above half. Yeah, big fan of it. Can see it's actually tied for 90 in all three of these middle spots. Because, the course visuals aren't too interesting. You got the oil and you got some cones, but the track is very generic. And the tires are basically everywhere. Track design, it's not great. You do have some decent shortcuts, here and there, but it's a very straightforward track, and it is very short. Not a big fan of it. Vibe, you can also see, is pretty low. I don't know. This track is just very uninteresting to me. Very mid. Number 85, Sweet Sweet Canyon. The music on this track is definitely a bop. It does place lower than some other ones just because the arrangement isn't super interesting, but it definitely is pretty catchy. Background visuals, again, are one of the worst ones in the original game. You can see it's just water and a lot of stuff out of nowhere. I did move a lot of the stuff closer to the track as course visuals. You got a lot of interesting stuff out here. You got some interesting track designs, you got a lot of the piranhas, you got the donuts you can go through, and you got a lot of the grandstand stuff that's very thematic, very candy themed. It's very nice, and all the colors fit very well. Yeah, this area here is quite interesting. Track design, it's again not very good. You got that one shortcut near the end here, and you do have a split path, but besides that, there's not a lot going on. You do have the cannon, but it's very flat and boring. The vibe for me has been off on this one since day one, just not a huge fan of it. Number 84, Dry Dry Desert. The music is rock bottom for this one. It's got this one main lick here, and it's not that interesting. It just plays the same thing over and over again. Not a fan. Background visuals, definitely not on the bottom here. You do have some interesting stuff with the Sphinx and the pyramids, but other than that, there is not a lot going on, and the pyramids kind of get a little bit repetitive for me. Course visuals, they're actually pretty decent. You got a lot of the interesting pillars that fall over, you got some interesting water areas, and you do have the pokies. So, it's at least a little bit of a mix-up, got some interesting things in there. Track design is also on the little bit higher end. You do have the shortcut here. You can gain a ton of time on it. You also see me do that mushroomless shortcut that I suck at, but it's really fun to do when you get it right, especially in 200cc. However, the vibe on this one is way down. I do not like playing this stage. I'm actually not a fan of desert stages in general, except Cheeseland, but we'll get to that. Number 83, SNES Mario Circuit 3. This stage has the worst visuals out of any course in the game. I mean, look at that background. It's got this weird white skybox. You got those low, weird, cartoony clouds and trees. Those hills just, they look terrible. The course visuals, they're not the worst, but they're second to worst. Because, yeah, I mean, you got the Mario themed stuff on the side, which is good. But the track and the SNES blocks, the pipes is really not that interesting. It's very generic. The music is pretty decent, actually. It's not great, but I do like that retro vibe. Track design is definitely the best area in this track. You got some interesting shortcuts, you get some cool, nice hairpin turns. It's pretty interesting to play, pretty exciting. The vibe also is not great, but it's not the worst. I don't know, I don't mind playing this stage. My brother really likes playing this stage, I know, so it's a good time. Number 82, Mario Kart Stadium. This music, I think, is quite interesting. Barely doesn't make it into the top half for me. Has some nice counter melodies here, especially when the piano comes in with the flutes. That's a good time. The background visuals are also pretty nice. You got the grandstand with the low-res fans, but it's a lot more big, a lot more grand. And you have the city in the background. You also got, the confetti, you got the helicopter man, you got the fireworks. It's pretty good. Course visuals, though, are not super interesting. A lot of it's pretty generic. You just got the sand, normal road, all that stuff. And again, the track design is not really there. You got a couple of shortcuts, but they're not super interesting. The last shortcut at the end is probably the most interesting part of the track. The vibe, again, is pretty low. I don't know. I think a lot of these earlier stages just get played a lot, and after that, they're not super interesting. Don't vibe with it that much. Number 81, Bone Dry Dunes. This desert stage is placed pretty similarly to Dry Dry Desert, but it has comparatively a lot more going for it. For one, the music is a lot more engaging. It's not the best, but it's got a good beat and it's definitely fun to race to. The background visuals are really cool on this stage, I think. You got the nice sunset, you got the sand ship, you got a lot of thematic bone stuff, desert stuff, and you're going through Dry Bowser as you go into that cave. The course visuals are also really cool here too. You can see you got the bone platform, you got dry bones, the bone piranhas. There's just a lot of cool thematic stuff that I like here. The stage design kind of sucks though. Going through the split pass and going into the cave is really janky. You can kind of just get thrown out of your glider if you're trying to go onto the top path, and it's just really inconsistent. For that reason, the vibe is pretty low. Kind of a pain to play this stage. Number 80, Snowland. This one is pretty similar to a lot of the other SNES courses, but it's got a little bit more going for it, like with Bone Dry Dunes. Background is pretty similar to other SNES tracks, but you got the interesting ice spikes there, and you got the trees. It's a little bit more interesting. You got that bridge there. Course visuals, again, along the same vein, a little bit more interesting. You got the penguins, you got the ice, you got the snowmen. It's pretty good. The track design, honestly, I think is pretty good for some of the shortcuts. I know a lot of people don't like the slippery roads, so that definitely brings it down. But I think it's still pretty enjoyable, especially for the shortcuts and that big, huge shortcut you can take over the hill. Unfortunately, I play with an inward drifting bike, so I can't do that. But it's still fun. Vibe, I don't know. The vibe is pretty low. I'm not the biggest fan of this stage. Probably I'm just salty that I can't hit the shortcut here, but that's just me. Number 79, Berlin Byways. This is deservedly the lowest ranking tour course. It's one of the car stages, and you know how I hate these car stages. Man, there's a lot of turns you go around, you just get blindsided by a car. I also think a lot of the different directions you go in this stage can be pretty confusing, so I'm not a fan of the track design here. Same thing for the music. Just really does not feel like it fits what I'd expect from Berlin. Does have a little bit of that nightclub feel though, which I get. Background visuals and course visuals, you definitely can't go wrong with Tour. You got a decently interesting city, a lot of diverse course visuals, and you got the womps and the thwomps, and you got some cool little city areas, so that's pretty cool. But for me, the vibe is pretty far down there. I remember trying to grind out the time trial for this course and just getting frustrated with the cars, so I think because of that, it's low in my vibe list. Number 78, London Loop. Yeah, these two tour tracks are definitely lowest on my list. This one also, I think, suffers from a lot of the confusing different lap directions. I think maybe even a little bit more so than Berlin Byways. The music is definitely a little bit better. I don't find it very personally interesting, but it's definitely better than Berlin. Again, can't go wrong with the background visuals here. You got this cool little train area. I do think the city is a little bit less interesting though, especially for the course visuals. There's not as much going on here, not as much unique stuff in terms of things you're directly interacting with in the course. The vibe is a little bit better though. You know, there's not any car sections here, so I don't have to deal with that. But yeah, still pretty low. Just not a big fan of this one. Number 77, Toad Circuit. Ethan, I know you're going to be pissed at this one, but I'm sorry, this stage is not that good. The music, though, I will say, has made it into the top half. It's got a good vibe, it's got the good trumpet stuff, as you know I like, so that's pretty good. Background visuals are pretty interesting because you got the big fat toads as balloons, so I'm a fan of that. But besides that, you just got the low-res grandstand and some of those classic hills, so not a lot going on there. The road is even worse with the course visuals. You got some of the confetti, but it's just a straight-up road for like the whole thing, and some sand and dirt. And of course, the classic DLC low-res grass is no good. The level design is also not super interesting here. You do have the glider here and some okay shortcuts at the end, but it's just an 8. Very uninteresting. As a result, the vibe is pretty low here. I feel like maybe one day it'll get higher as I play this more with Ethan. Number 76, 8 Mario Circuit. As you can see, a lot of the Mario circuits are placed pretty low on this, but this is definitely the best one, I believe. It's got a slightly more interesting background visuals. You do have the, Peach's Castle, and you got some cool waterfall stuff, but there's not a whole lot out there. You can see out there in the distance, there's basically nothing. The music is pretty engaging. I am a fan of the theme here. It's very fun to race with. Course visuals, though, are pretty low. You got that interesting bridge. A lot of it, you got some Goombas, you got the Piranhas, but a lot of it is just the plain old track. Track design, you do get bonus points for being able to hit the sign. That's a good time. But it is obviously just kind of a couple big curves. This feels like this was their tech demo for the anti-grav stuff. So, it's probably the first track they made. But, nevertheless, I do vibe with this stage. Music does a big deal for me. Number 75, Donut Plains 3. I do really like this music. It's got a nice chill vibe, but it's maybe not the best for racing, so that does bring it down a bit. Again, with many of the SNES tracks, the background visuals are not great here. It is a little bit better. You got some of the big question mark blocks. You got the toad houses, so it's a little bit more interesting. You got that castle there. The course visuals, I think, are actually a step up from some of the other ones, because, you got some wet track here and there, you got the bridge, you got the Cheep Cheeps, you got some water, and you got the Monty Moles, of course, and that's pretty good. Track design, not the worst. You got some cool shortcuts. I do find it interesting that the items, I think, are so sparse here, especially if you're going through the water over here. Overall, I got some good vibes on this one. I don't know, just very chill, kind of just like hanging out with it, I don't know. Number 74, Royal Raceway. The music is, I don't know, it's not great here. I feel like I've heard this theme before, I can't really place where it's from, but it's not super interesting to me. Background visuals, though, on this course, I think are awesome. You got the really nice pink trees, you got the cool air balloons, you got a nice skybox, got the cool castle stuff. It's got a lot going for it. I'm a big fan of all of it. The actual track visuals, though, aren't super interesting. A lot of it's just plain old road and piranha plants. A lot of the stuff you see in many of the other tracks. In terms of the track design, again, there's not a whole lot there. You don't really have any great places for a shortcut. You have that one obvious one near the beginning, but it's nothing too exciting here. Vibe, nevertheless, pretty high for me. I do like this stage. I like the way it feels, like the way it looks. So, I think it's pretty high up there, pretty close to top half. Number 73, Daisy Cruiser. The music here I think is pretty similar to Donut Plains, nice and chill. It's just a little bit less followable with the melody than it is Donut Plains. Background visuals, though, on this one kind of suck. I'm mostly counting the whole cruiser as course visuals. If you look past that, there's really not much out there besides the ocean and a couple weird islands. Course visuals, though, because of the cruiser, are pretty good. I mean, the inside of the cruiser is definitely very interesting. You got the cool seats with the Shy Guys, or the Toads. You got the nice little pool with the Goombas. It's a good time. Track design is pretty decent. You know, you have some interesting decisions to make. You gotta dodge the moving tables. Gotta dodge the Goombas in the pool. Yeah. Vibe, I don't know. I kind of like these kind of chill tracks. Even if they're not super intense, I do have a good vibe with them. Number 72, Sky High Sunday. This track has just barely squeezed its way out of the bottom quarter of tracks. The music is kind of decent. It's definitely pretty engaging, especially for a racing track, but there's not too much going on there. Background visuals are quite decent on this track. You know, you got a lot of cool ice cream themed stuff. It's very cool. But again, there's not a lot of detail out there. Kind of a lot of foggy situation like we saw with Choco Mountain. But the course visuals here are super good. There's a lot of awesome thematic stuff with the ice cream. You got this freezer box you're going into at the start of the lap. I think it's very cool. Very unique. Track design, though, isn't super interesting. You got some cool split paths right near before the end, but there's not really any places to do shortcuts. Yeah, pretty straightforward on this one. The vibe here is pretty high for me, though. I really like this idea. I'm a big fan of ice cream, so that does a big thing for me. Number 71, 8 Rainbow Road. This is, I think, undeniably the lowest ranking out of all of the Rainbow Roads in this game. The music here, it's okay. It's not super interesting to me. I'm not the biggest fan of it. Background visuals are definitely a good step for it. You know, you got the whole Earth there. You got this cool, huge satellite. Got that blooper ship over there. And you got the high-tech low-res stand grandstand. So that's good. The course visuals, they're probably in a similar vein. I do like the rainbow pattern for this one, and it's got definitely some unique patterns with the track. Track design, though, I'm not a huge fan of. I really don't like this turn at the end here, and I really don't like the hairpin turn at the beginning either. Just not a fan of this, especially on 200cc. Vibe for me is pretty low. Just not a big fan of this track. Haven't really found it very interesting or engaging. Number 70, Shroom Ridge. This falls susceptible to what a lot of the early DLC tracks did. It has probably some of the worst background visuals. There's nothing out there. Just some low-res mountains and some low-res water. The course visuals, of course, because of the cars, are a little bit more interesting. And I think you got the cool little tunnel there. You got some cool wind effects near the end, so it's got that going for it. I do really like the music on this track. It's got a good vibe, very fun. Always love that trumpet stuff. Track design also is pretty decent. You know, you got some good shortcuts here. I do really hate the cars as usual, but I think these shortcuts make up for it in a way. Because of the music, the vibe is a little bit higher than it probably normally would be. Still not great, but I do like the music a lot, and that does a lot. Number 69, Wii DK Summit. Fun fact, in Europe this stage is called DK Snowboard Cross. Why? I have no clue. I feel like that name is way worse. Anyway, the music here is decent. It's definitely fun for racing, pretty engaging, but it doesn't have a lot going on. Background visuals are okay. You know, you got some cool skiing stuff. You got the ski lift, but these are just like worse, basically worse Mount Wario. So it's not great. Course visuals are even worse. It's just a lot of snow. You do have the snowboarding Shy Guys, which is pretty unique, but that's about it here. Track design, I kind of like. You know, you have some cool shortcuts near the end. Obviously, you can tell that I'm terrible at hitting them. And the half pipes in this version are pretty janky, but I think that makes it kind of fun. Vibe isn't great. It is from Wii, so you can't go too bad, but I don't have a lot of connection to this course. Number 68, Rosalina's Ice World. Back in the day, before Yoshi, I was a Rosalina main, so I was really hoping this track would pull through. Unfortunately did not. The music is really uninteresting, I'm not a fan. The background visuals do hold it up a lot because you got the cool skybox, you got the Super Mario Galaxy references, I'm always a big fan of that. But the course visuals are not good at all. It's basically all ice, and the underwater part is not very interesting. I'm also kind of weirded out by these long boost pads. I'm not sure what was up with those. The track design does do a decent amount. It's got some interesting split paths here. It's got the nice shortcut at the end. So that's pretty okay. Vibe, liking Rosalina does do a lot for me, but I was definitely disappointed with this track. So not great on the vibe rating. Number 67, Rock Rock Mountain. I do like the rock beat here in this song, but besides the beat, I don't think there's a whole lot going on. Background visuals, again, not super interesting here. You basically got a whole lot of void. It is a little bit better than Choco Mountain though, because the clouds are a little bit more believable and it's a little bit more interesting. You do also get some good shots of the forest here through this glider section. The course visuals, again, are in a similar vein, not super interesting, pretty low res and pretty ununique. They do have the boulders though. The track design, I think, is pretty fun. I do like a stage with a lot of glider, and you've got some decent shortcuts here. Clearly, I am trash at hitting them, but they're fun shortcuts nonetheless. In terms of the vibe, I do actually vibe with this track a lot. It's very close to getting to the top half for me. Can't really explain why. Maybe it's the fact that you can hit the banner here, but I do generally like it. Number 66, Yoshi Valley. Of course, this one gets a boost in the vibe because it is Yoshi themed. But other than that, there's not too much going on here. The music is fun, but it's not very interesting. Background visuals, I do like the way the cliffs look, and you got some cool waterfalls and such. But there's not much going on besides the eggs here. Course visuals are probably even worse. It's pretty basic, pretty generic for everything. I do like the track design though, even though the branching paths are pretty much solved on which is the fastest. It makes it very interesting, and it's kind of fun to just go through all the different tracks. And you do have a lot of nice shortcuts near the end here. Number 65, Twisted Mansion. The music definitely is decently interesting. It feels very clunky though, and I'm not the biggest fan of that. Background visuals are pretty interesting. You know, you got the cool mansion vibe. It does have some very cool things going on in it, but I think the course visuals are a lot more interesting. It's got a lot of unique things. You know, you can go through with the haunted statues. You got a lot of diverse actual track designs. I think it's very interesting, everything that they got going on here with the Twisted Mansion theme. The track design also is decently good. It's in the top half here. You got some splits, different ways you can go. You also got the nice shortcut. I think it's also cool how you've got the statues there that you can go around if you really want to get faster. Unfortunately, the vibe is not very high for me here though. Just don't like it that much. Number 64, Wario Stadium. If I thought Eathan was gonna hate me for Toad Circuit, Vegeta's gonna hate me more for this one. That man is Wario. All jokes aside, the music is pretty good here. Just barely sneaks into the top half. But the background visuals, I don't think are super interesting. The grandstand is just about as interesting as Excitebike, but with less interesting colors for me. I do like the Wario statue here though, that does give it a bonus. Course visuals I think are pretty neat. You got a lot of interesting designs going on here. You know, you got the fireballs, a lot of different track designs, and you can go through a lot of different mud areas. I think that's pretty cool. Track design is pretty decent. There's not really any place to do shortcuts, but for me, these turns around here at the beginning feel very fun to play through. Because of my boy Majid, this does place high on the vibe meter. Yeah, that's about it. Number 63, Amsterdam Drift. I'm really not a fan of the music in this stage. I do like the accordion, but the voices kind of ruin it for me. Background visuals here, though, I think are quite good. The city may be low res, but from being in Amsterdam myself, being in the Tulip Festival, a lot of this feels very like Amsterdam, and I really like the visuals, especially in the Tulip area. Course visuals aren't quite as good. It does have the trams, which I think are very interesting, very cool, but other than that, not too much going on. Track design also is pretty good. It's nearing the top half, but I really don't like the underwater section. The trams are very similar to Toad Harbor, but I feel like they're just a little bit more annoying. Vibe, it's pretty decent. I'm kind of indifferent about this stage. Maybe just a little bit leaning towards dislike. Number 61, SNES Rainbow Road. I love the music on this stage. It's another one of those chill themes, but I feel like it's got a lot more going for it, and it's a lot more lending to a nice driving atmosphere. Background visuals, I do like the moon, and I do like kind of the ground at the bottom, but there's not a whole lot going on. Course visuals, I think, are definitely a lot better. The rainbow thwomps are super neat. I'm always a fan of the Rainbow Road style. It is still decently basic, though, because that's about all there is here. Track design is probably near the bottom. It does have a couple good shortcuts, but like most of the SNES tracks, it's very blocky, very straightforward, and I'm not a big fan of that. I do have a really good vibe with this, though, mostly because of the music. Yeah, just got a really good feeling about this course. Number 61, Sunshine Airport. I know a lot of you are going to be disappointed by this, and honestly, I am too. You can see it's high up on my vibe meter. I love this course. The music is super fun, but we gotta face the facts here. The background visuals, you do have the actual airport going for you, but if you tend to look outside of that, it's just the ocean and some islands. It's really not interesting. Same thing for the course visuals. You do have the planes that you go through, but a lot of it is really not very interesting. And the worst here is the track design. There's not really any places for cool shortcuts. You got that one at the start there, and you do have the box part, but it's not very interesting. There's not a lot going on here. So I do regretfully put this not even in the top 60, but I think it's justified here. Number 60, Neo Bowser City. This might be controversial, but I do really actually like the hairpin turns near the end of this track. I kind of like having to do that bridge tricking. It's very intense. But besides that, there's not a lot going on here. I don't really like any of the shortcuts that they offer here. So I brought it down a little bit. The background visuals are definitely some of the best here. The city is very cool. There's a lot of detail. You can basically look at a ton of stuff here. So it's near the top. Course visuals, though, are pretty much about opposite. They're right near the bottom. They're not very interesting, not very diverse, and the stuff that is different I don't find to be very cool. I do like the music. It's got a nice vibe, kind of similar to all the other chill vibe stuff like Rainbow Road, but not quite as good as that. So vibe, I think it's pretty good. Like I said, I do like those hairpin turns, but it's probably somewhere in the middle for me. Number 59, Ice Ice Outpost. So a lot of the close-up background visuals here are quite neat. You know, you got some of the boats and you got some cool kind of, I don't know, ice things. But if you look out there, again, it's one of those ones that just has a bunch of ocean and rocks. Not super interesting. I especially don't like the course visuals, how they're just kind of this like green and yellow weird track the whole time. I'm not really sure what they were going for there, but I don't like it. The music, though, is definitely pretty fun. I'm a big fan of it, and I think this has some really good track design. I love how the whole track is split up the whole time. It's got some really good shortcuts. It's basically shortcuts throughout the whole track. I'm not the best at hitting them, but when you hit them, they are very satisfying. Unfortunately, I don't really vibe with this track much. I don't know, just haven't been a fan much of it since it came out in the original DLC. Number 58, DK Mountain. I was super stoked to see this one come out in the DLC for the last wave. One of the main problems with it, though, is the music. There's basically nothing going on with this song. It's just a nice backing track, but not really anything you can get into. The background visuals I do really like. That big angry mountain is definitely fun. The shot going up and down the mountain is really cool, so I'm a big fan of that. Course visuals, they're decently interesting. You know, you got some interesting volcano area here. You do got the rocks, but it's pretty generic overall. Track design, I do really like. I like the idea of going up the mountain and then driving all the way down it. And you do have this tough shortcut that you can take here, and then of course a mushroom shortcut near the beginning. Vibe, again, like I said, I was excited to see this track. It's in one of the Wii ones that I liked. Yeah, really like this one. Number 57, Riverside Park. Man, I love the music on this track. When the bones come in, the horns, it's such a good time, and I love the unique instrumentation. It's very cool. I also really vibe with this course. I don't know what it is. I think I was just really excited when this DLC came out, and I was just having a good time with it. Unfortunately, the other categories are not nearly as good. The background visuals do have a decent bit going for them. You got a little bit more interesting jungle trees and the nice sunset, but not much outside of that. Course visuals, like I said, a decent amount going for it. You have the cool waterfalls, you have the walking piranha plants, which I find very funny, but it's also pretty generic with its normal track design. In terms of the actual track design, it's super short. There are some good shortcuts, but I don't like how when you go up through the cave, you can get blindsided by the piranhas. So, again, kind of carried by its music and its vibe. Number 56, Los Angeles Laps. I do definitely like the music on this one. It gets pretty interesting. Not the whole thing, but there are some really nice moments in it, and I like the cool little interesting instrument that they have. I'm not really sure what it is, but I am a fan. Background visuals, again, like most tour tracks, are pretty good. I do like the city, like the beach. The mountains in the background aren't great, but as with every city and tour, it's got its Ferris wheel, so it's got that going for it. Course visuals, on the other hand, are not nearly as good. Again, very generic. I really don't think that the oil rig area is interesting at all. And the track design, I don't know. It's just not very memorable to me. I do like how you can go through the ballpark, but I still don't think there's a lot going on there. I don't know. I just don't get very good vibes from this track. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm from the East Coast, so I just hate the West Coast. I don't know, man. Number 55, Wario's Gold Mine. This used to be my favorite track in Wii. Honestly, I'm not sure why, but as you can see, it's definitely a lot lower in the vibe list now. I'm just not a big fan of it now. The music I do think is really fun. It's very engaging, great for racing in Mario Kart, and the background visuals here are really cool. You got the whole mining city. You got a lot of lore built in here. I think I give a lot of bonus points for lore. You can see the Shy Guy's got a mining setup. There's a lot of actually Shy Guy lore in Mario Kart now that I think about it, but we'll get to that later. Course visuals are pretty cool with all the mine carts. You know, you got some interesting track design. You got the bats. Yeah, good stuff. Track design I think also is pretty interesting. It's fun going through the mine carts. You don't have any mushroom shortcuts, but you can cut corners like that. I am sad they took out the half pipes though. That is a big loss. Number 54, Calamari Desert. I do think the music is pretty decent in this. It's got a good vibe. There's not a whole lot going on in terms of melody or recognizable tunes, but again, the trumpets do a lot for me. The background visuals are, again, not super interesting. They're like Sunset Wilds, so pretty bad, basically. The train obviously does a lot for this track in terms of course visuals. It's very cool, and I think the train basically carries the course visuals in this. Honestly, same thing goes for track design. I do like how they mixed it up and had you go through the tunnel with the train. Very cool. There's a lot of neat shortcuts on this track as well. Yeah, I just kind of vibe with this course based on the track design. I don't know. I think it's just a very neat course, very fun to play. Number 53, Mushroom Gorge. The music is definitely nostalgic for this track, but looking at it objectively, I honestly don't think it's super interesting. For the background visuals, you do have the cave, which I think is very nice. We've got a lot of good effects in there, but outside there's not a lot going on. Pretty low res, pretty cartoony. Track visuals, I think, are actually a little bit more interesting just because of all the mushrooms, and you got the Goombas. Yeah, the mushrooms, I think, just add kind of a unique area to this, especially with the blue glider mushroom. Very cool. Track design, honestly, is super good. I do like all the split paths through the cave. There's a lot of good shortcuts on this track, of course. I didn't even know about this shortcut near the start here until Eathan pointed it out to me. But yeah, it's a good time. Again, vibe is pretty high for this one. I liked it in Wii, I like it in this game. It's a good time. Number 52, Waluigi Stadium. The music for this stage is definitely goofy, but I'm kind of a fan of it. And it's got some good themes. Of course, the trumpet does a lot for me. Background visuals are definitely a step up from the stuff we've seen in Wario Stadium and Excite Bike. The grandstand, while still low res, is definitely a little bit more interesting. The big screen is very cool, and I think the lighting is just a lot more interesting. The course visuals are also pretty interesting. You know, you got these like fake piranhas, you got like the mud, which is pretty normal, but it's a little bit more wet, it's a little bit more reflective, and that makes it slightly more interesting. You've also got these little like green track areas, which are also unique. Track design, I think, is pretty fun. You do have a lot of split paths here. You got the big half pipe with the piranha plant section. Yeah, it's a good time. Again, with the vibe, this one I do remember from Wii. It's probably not as high compared to other ones, but the music is really fun for me. Number 51, Daisy Circuit. I do not remember the music being this good in Wii. This is like the same kind of deal as all the chill tracks, but the music I think is just really engaging, really exciting, and kind of builds up to a height. It's very fun, very high in my rankings. Background visuals also I think are really good. I like the town that we're around. I really think the statues are super cute. Lighthouse is always good. Again, there's not too much out there in the ocean, but a lot of the close-up visuals make up for it. Course visuals, unfortunately, aren't super interesting. It's pretty generic. You do have the nice little shortcut. The visuals in that tunnel are nice, but there's not a lot going on here. Track design also isn't super great. Like I said, that shortcut through the stairs is pretty interesting, but other than that, there's not too much going on. The vibe, I honestly really like it, mostly because of the music, and I just like the visuals here. Number 50, Cheep Cheep Beach. Again, this music is very similar in vibe to Daisy Circuit, but I do think it's definitely significantly less interesting. The background visuals also are a lot less interesting. You do have kind of like the cool cabana area, and you do have a little bit of forest, a little bit of cool stuff in the ocean, but not much. The course visuals, though, I think are super cool. You know, you got the crab, you got the forest area, you got a lot of cool stuff that you can interact with, I think. Cheep Cheeps, all that good stuff. Track design definitely isn't the best, but it's got some cool stuff. I like how you can take that shortcut through the water. That's almost like a branching path for me. I think it's pretty interesting. The vibe, I do think it's quite high in my vibe list. This one's just really chill. I played it a lot since it was in the original game. Yeah, just good time with it. Number 49, Paris Promenade. The music is definitely pretty fun in this one, very French, so that does fit the theme, I would say. The background visuals, again, as with all tour ones, are pretty interesting. The buildings are very similar, but of course you got the hot air balloons, and you got the Eiffel Tower. Great shot as you're going through there. Can't go wrong with that. Course visuals, though, aren't super interesting. Again, it's a lot of generic tracks. It does get a little bit of boost for the European roadways, but there's not much going on there. Track design, I think, is really cool. It's a nice kind of ease into the tour way of switching up the tracks. Going backwards to the track, I think, is very fun. And you got this nice shortcut coming through here. Vibe, honestly, I'm surprised by how high this one up is, considering it was in the first wave of DLC, which I was generally not very enthusiastic about. But this was very fun for me. I did have a good vibe with this one. Number 48, Water Park. Ladies and gentlemen, we have officially made it to the top half of the tracks, and to be honest, I am surprised Water Park managed to make it here. As you can see, based on my vibe, I'm not really a big fan of this track, but on the other stats, you can see that actually track design and background visuals are pretty up there in the top half. Track design, it's pretty cool. It's got this nice big turn here. You got the shortcut through the cupcakes, of course. You can go through the Ferris wheel. Background visuals are pretty good too. There's a lot of interesting stuff down underwater here. You got some nice buildings in the background there. Course visuals are honestly some of the top, because you can go through the Ferris wheel, you got the cool submarine thing that you go around through the loop, You got a lot of interesting track designs, very nice. I think that's about all. The music is pretty good as well. Some nice chill vibes. Of course, you got the good trumpet parts here as well. So, pretty good. Number 47, Athens Dash. This is one of the examples in which the trumpets do not carry the music through. You can see the music is priced pretty low. Despite of that trumpet fanfare at the beginning, the rest of the music is not very interesting. Background visuals are quite good though. Of course, you got all the ruins in Greece, very nice. And you of course have the cool city on the third lap, like that a lot. The course visuals, however, are not quite as good. They're just fairly interesting. You've got some unique road patterns. You can go drive through the ruins, of course. But the actual hero here is the track design. There's lots of cool stuff you go through. It's not too hard to understand where you're going each lap. You can revisit some things. Tons of shortcuts to see on this lap. Very interesting and unique. Unfortunately, the vibe isn't there very much for me. I don't know, just not a big fan of Greece, I guess. And this track, guess I just don't vibe with it. Number 46, Bowser Castle 3. This is the most recent SNES port and also the best ranked one. Unfortunately, music is not part of that. The music here is pretty repetitive and honestly not very interesting to me. The background visuals are great, I think, though. You got the whole castle setup, you got the Grumble Volcano type volcano in the background. The skybox is fairly interesting as well. Course visuals are also pretty neat. You got a lot of interesting brick. You got the bone piranhas, which are pretty unique. The thwomps, of course. Yes, very interesting, I think. And the track design here, I also think is pretty top-notch. You can bounce off the thwomps here, which is very cool. You got a lot of split paths, a lot of areas for shortcuts. It's very cool. You get to climb up the kind of lava pathway here. Very neat. The vibe is also pretty good for me. I don't know. This level came out pretty recently, but I vibe with it. It's very neat, very cool to play. Number 45, New York Minute. This is some pretty good music here. Love the jazz stuff. Very, very nice. Background visuals, they're pretty neat. This city is decently interesting. It is a little generic, a little low res, but I do think it's very cool. Coming from New Jersey, when I've been to New York a lot, I do recognize some of these things, and I appreciate it. Course visuals, they're okay. A lot of it's pretty generic. You do have the nice slick road here, which looks pretty cool. You do have the cars, although I will say this is not very accurate to New York City. There would be way more traffic if this was New York City, but that's okay. I appreciate less cars in this game. Track design is pretty decent. It can get a little confusing sometimes, not a whole lot of places for shortcuts, but it's pretty fun to play. Unfortunately though, the vibe isn't there for me. Just not a big fan of this one, can't really explain why. Don't really like it that much. Number 44, DK Jungle. You already know this music has got to be top tier. I love this song. It goes crazy every time, never gets old. Background visuals for this track are also awesome. You got the Kong hut here, you got the waterfalls, you got the airship, you got the temple, you got the big golden banana in the temple. You can't go wrong with that. And you also got the nice jungle aesthetic too. Very nice. Course visuals are also pretty sweet. You got a lot of different unique features here. You got the, I don't even know what those guys are with the bridge area, but they're cool. You got a lot of different stuff. You got the old, weird, angry men towers. Not sure how to describe them, you know what I mean. Track design, though, unfortunately, isn't too great. Not a lot of places for shortcuts, not a lot of decision making. Not the biggest fan here. But, of course, because of everything else, the vibe is high. Love this stage, man. Number 43, Sydney Sprint. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised this stage has made it so far in the rankings. You can see from my vibe, it's honestly not that high up in my regard. Don't really care for it that much. The track design, it's decent. You know, it's a tour track, so I do appreciate the interesting kind of paths you take, but you do kind of go through the same area very frequently. Course visuals, again, aren't too interesting. You just got the regular old track. There is some interesting visuals on the split pathway, but not too much there. Of course, with the tour track, you got the great background visuals. You got the train, you got the opera house, you got the cool city. It's a good time. Honestly, I think the music carries this track. I'm a big fan of the sax solo. If you listen close to the recording, I think there's also an alternate extension of this recording where you get a sick sax solo. Yeah, it's coming in here, man, that stuff rocks. Number 42, Vancouver Velocity. Again, this is one I'm very surprised to see placing so high, and honestly, a lot of the stats look very similar here. You can see it's ranked just a little bit higher in vibe for me. I do appreciate the ice hockey. I'm a big hockey fan. The track design is a little bit worse though. I don't really like the places you go through here. This bridge area is pretty cool, but a lot of it is pretty unnoteworthy for me. Same thing with the course visuals. They're definitely a lot better than Sydney Sprint because you got the interesting bridge area, you got the ice hockey, skating and Shy Guys, but a lot of generic stuff as well. Background visuals are decent. I would say that the city is a little bit less interesting than Sydney Sprint, a little bit more low res, but the music is top tier. You got some, it's honestly kind of just a disco feel. You got some cool riffs here and there. Great stuff. Number 41, Madrid Drive. Interesting that we have 3 tour tracks in a row here, but this one is definitely one I expect to see up here. Man, I love this type of music. I'm a big fan of Latin tunes. I speak Spanish. I've been to Spain. It's a great time. As you can see, the vibe here is a lot higher. Fortunately, the track design isn't quite as high for me. Can't really describe why, just not quite as interesting as the other tracks. Of course, this is in the new wave, so I may just have to warm up to it, but that's where it sits for now. The course visuals are pretty similar to Sydney Sprint. Again, just lots of generic stuff. A lot of the stuff here is in the background visuals. You got a lot of cool stuff. Of course, you saw straight through that art museum there. A lot of unique stuff in the city. I feel like it's very cool. And of course, like I said, the music is just stellar here. Number 40, Electrodome. This definitely has some of the most unique and creative course visuals in the entire game. The idea of having a bunch of musically connected kind of track design is very cool. Like the path you have behind you makes sound, all the things you go through interact with the way you move. It's very awesome. Background visuals are very similar too. You know, you got the low-res big screen with the big rave crowd. You got this big techno feel. It's very cool. Track design is great. You got this whole huge split path. A lot of this is also in relation to the music design of this course. And of course you got the huge shortcut at the end. Great vibes for me here. My boy Majid also is a big fan of this one. He loves the Star Cup, so you can't go wrong with this one. Unfortunately, the music is kind of trash for me. I don't find it interesting at all, so that brings it down a ton. Number 39, Cheeseland. I think this one is honestly so high in my vibe rankings because I love cheese. I eat a lot of cheese and saltines. Personal food choices aside, I do really like the music in this track. It's really fun, really engaging, great for racing. Background visuals unfortunately cannot hold up as well. It's just a bunch of big cheese things. You know, you got the pizza slices over here, but there's really not a whole lot going on. Course visuals are a little bit better. It is very cool that you have the little cheese holes that you can go through. You got the chain chomps. It's a little bit more interesting. Track design is also pretty neat. You've got a lot of shortcuts that you can go through this track. And of course, if you've seen the Ultra Bullet Bill, you know that there's a lot going on here. Number 38, Ribbon Road. This was a hard-fought second place for the background visuals. I mean, the amount of detail in these background visuals is absolutely insane. You could look at the background of this course for probably like a year and still find new things in it. It's crazy. Course visuals are also super unique here. A ton of different ideas, a ton of different things you can interact with, different obstacles, very neat. Track design is also stellar. You got a ton of hard shortcuts here, a ton of really satisfying shortcuts. Yeah, a lot of places cut corners. It's very awesome. Vibe unfortunately isn't super high for me. I've just never been a big fan of this one. Hasn't interested me super much with the theme, and the music is also not really interesting. Those two categories bring this track down a lot. Otherwise, it would be definitely in the top dozen. Number 37, Tokyo Blur. I'm just now realizing that a lot of these tour tracks kind of have some banging music. This one is really great for me. I mean, it's pretty chill, but you have some cool guitar riffs here and there, some great horn licks. Can't describe why, but it's high up there for me. Background visuals are definitely not on the more interesting side of the tour tracks. You know, you do have Mount Fuji, you got the interesting city, but it's a little bit less fascinating to me personally. The course visuals are also not great. I mean, you do have the thwomps here and there, but a lot of the track is very generic, and you have some just kind of random red strips that I don't quite understand. Track design is pretty nice. It does have a little bit less pass-throughs and different unique things, kind of a little bit more introductory to tour stuff. But for me, the vibe on this track is great. This was my saving grace in the first wave. Number 36, Koopa Cape. This is another great Wii track. The music here is super fun, very enjoyable, very Wii-ish, and very great for making lyrics. Ethan, you know what I mean, it's great. Background visuals, honestly, I think are pretty cool. You got a lot of interesting stuff in the water. It may be a little bit low res like a lot of the DLC is, but I find it pretty interesting. Course visuals are also pretty neat. You got a lot of the cool shells, you got the cool water that you're going through. The whole half-pipe underwater section is also great. Unfortunately, I am a little disappointed with the track design because I really liked the fully sealed pipe underwater. They went with the immersed in water, which I was not super pleased with, but the rest of the track is great for a lot of cool shortcuts going through the water. And of course, you can't go wrong with the vibe here. I do really like this. This is one of my favorite tracks in Wii, so it stays up there. Number 35, Dragon Driftway. In the old days before COVID, before I was even a Rosalina main, I was a Lakitu main. So of course, Dragon Driftway has to hold high esteem in my vibe. Of course, the background visuals also have a lot to show. You got the really cool temple stuff. There's just a lot to see in the background with the kind of nature, the structures of the rocks. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying, but you know what I mean. The course visuals are also really great here. I mean, the whole track is a dragon. Of course, you got the Lakitu walls, which I'm a fan of. Very good stuff. Track design, I think, is also pretty neat. You got some really cool just designs of the dragon, nice shortcuts. Yeah, it's a good time. Unfortunately, the music doesn't really do it for me. I do like the general vibe, but there's not a whole lot of interesting stuff going. Number 34, Thwomp Ruins. This is undeniably the best track in the Mushroom Cup, which is overall a very not good cup. There's a lot of cool stuff in here. I really like the track design. It's very high in my rankings. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do here. Some split paths. You got the nice shortcut at the beginning and at the end. And the third spot, on the third lap, the little glider section opens up. It's very cool. Course visuals, I think, are also super unique. You got a lot of Thwomp stuff. It's very nicely themed with the Thwomp Ruins. Background visuals aren't quite as good, but you do have a bit of implied Thwomp lore here. And I think that's cool. You got some interesting Thwomp caves. What are these ruins for? What did they use this place for? A lot of unanswered questions. Vibe isn't super high for me, mostly because it's from the Mushroom Cup, but it's okay. Same thing for the music, some interesting themes, but nothing too interesting great. Number 33, Peach Gardens. This is another one of those tracks that has some nice chill music. I do think it's really fun. Yeah, just a good vibe. The background visuals, they're nothing too interesting. You know, you got the castle, and you got a lot of flowers, you got the hedges, but there's not too much going on here. Course visuals are probably even worse. You do have some of the enemies like Chain Chomps, Piranhas, and the Monties, and you got some flowers and some furniture here and there, but the rest of it is just dirt, and that's not a whole lot. Track design, I think, is really great. There's a lot of cool tricks you can do, a lot of shortcuts, and I think it's really cool how they mixed it up with this. Put in that backwards third lap with the glider, you could go through the hedges. I was a super big fan. Vibe is really high for me on this. I'm not really sure why. I was a really big fan of the Moon Cup. I just get good vibes from this one. Number 32, Yoshi's Circuit. This song is a classic for me. I have loved it since it was released. Back when I was in middle school and played jazz, I would like to quote this song in my solos. Not like it was good, but it was fun. Unfortunately, the visuals on this stage are not super good. Background visuals especially, there's not a whole lot out there besides the town at the beginning of the stage. Same thing with the course visuals, it's very plain, just classic grass, road, a couple piranhas here and there, nothing too stellar. I do really like the track design here. You got some great places for shortcuts. It's of course designed like a Yoshi, and I like Yoshi, so there's nothing else I can say about that. Of course, self-explaining that I really like the vibe on this stage. It's super fun to play. I don't know, I pick this stage a lot. It's really high up there for me. Number 31, Merry Mountain. This is inarguably near the top of my vibe list. I love Christmas. There are so many wonderful Christmas things on this stage. It's just the best feeling ever. And I cannot argue with how high this is on my vibe list. The music is great too. You got a really exciting theme, some great trumpet licks. Yeah, good stuff. Background visuals are very cool. The Christmas theme is awesome. You got the candy canes, the presents, the wonderful Christmas town. You got the Christmas train delivering presents. It doesn't get much better than that. Unfortunately, the course visuals aren't quite as good. It's just a lot of snow. It does get credit for having the interesting rainbow bricks near the front here, but other than that, not too much. Track design I think is really great. You have a cool upper path split up here, some great shortcuts around. Yes, very well designed, big on the vibe. Number 30, Piranha Plant Slide. You will soon realize that I am a very big fan of the Lightning Cup, so I love talking about this stage. Of course, it's very high on my vibe list because I love the Lightning Cup. Track design I think is really cool. I like that you're going through a whole huge giant pipe. There's some pretty cool shortcuts here. You get to jump over the big piranha. It's fun going through the fast water lines here. Good stuff. Course visuals I also think are quite unique. Going through the pipe area is very cool. A lot of interesting great designs here. Very nice. Background visuals aren't quite as good. You do have this very cool shot going up the pipe out of here, but once you get out here, there's not a whole lot to see, so it's not great. The music is definitely interesting, definitely decently exciting, but it's not too notable, so unfortunately it doesn't even make it up to halfway here. Number 29. N64 Rainbow Road. People who have known me for a long time will be absolutely astonished that this is so low on my rankings. Back in the original rankings, this was probably at least second. So, hear me out here. The music is great. Trumpet solo, incredible. Great vibes, feels like you've just reached the end of a long journey. Background visuals are also just amazing. You got the train, you got the whole huge city in the background, you got the nice skybox, you got the star and like the other shapes going through here. Course visuals are also really cool. I love this Rainbow Road design. I love the kind of lap markers, the fence you got, but unfortunately this track really falls short in level design. There's not a whole lot you gotta do here. It's very straightforward, not a whole lot of places to save time. And since track design is the most important part of these rankings, it has to fall short here. 28. Rome Avanti. Can anybody tell me what Avanti means? Because I really don't understand why this track was called that. Anyway, the music here is pretty good. It's very Italian, very similar to Paris Promenade, nicely themed, and I do think it's a good time, so it's ranked pretty high. Background visuals, again, are quite good. Similar to Greece, it's got the nice ruins, but it's got, I think, quite a nice city. I do like the Colosseum a lot. Very cool. Course visuals are also really neat. I like a lot of the different uniqueness that you go through. You go over the fountain, you go through the kind of old city, you also go through the Colosseum. You got the black spiky guys here. I don't know what's going on with those oil guys, but they're cool, they're unique. The track design is also quite neat, going through multiple places, but you go through them in a different way. It's very cool. However, the vibe isn't super high for me here. I don't know, I just don't care about it that much. Number 27, Music Park. This is very similar to Electrodome in its rankings, but it's just straight up better. The course visuals and track design are crazy. There's so much cool, unique ideas. The track design is so well fit with the theme. When you go over the different instruments, you got the different music playing. You got a lot of just cool things to see, and it's very satisfying to play. A lot of cool shortcuts. Great stuff. The background visuals are also really nice. To be fair, there's not a whole lot on the outside past the close-up visuals, but you do have the nice skybox, and all of the close-up visuals are very neat. The vibe here is also pretty high. As a music guy, I gotta like it. It's a good time, very upbeat, but again, similar to Electrodome, the music here is just not interesting at all, which is really ironic, but it's just very repetitive to me and unsatisfying. Number 26, Tick-Tock Clock. The vibe on this stage is off the charts for me. I have so much history on this stage. My boy Steve will know. This stage is the first thing I was playing when I stayed up till 5 in the morning for the first time, and I was never the same since. So yeah, this is undecidedly in the top 3 for me. Track design is also quite cool. There's not a whole lot of directly mushroomable shortcuts, but there's a lot of cool time saves, a lot of cool tricks that you can do on this track. I'm a big fan. The background and course visuals are just awesome, very well themed here. There's the amount of detail, of course, isn't as detailed as Ribbon Road, but there's so much cool clock stuff that you can see in the background. The course visuals are very unique, very fitting well with the theme. Awesome stuff. Again, the music is the pitfall of this stage. Just not super interesting. Yeah, can't say too much about it. Number 25, Coconut Mall. You can never go wrong with this music, man. It is awesome. Similarly, the vibe, I don't know. This was definitely one of my favorites in Wii, as it was for many people. The background visuals, of course, being in the first wave of the DLC, aren't super great. You know, once you get outside, there's kind of nothing out there. An empty sea, an empty parking lot. But the inside of the mall is very interesting. It's very unique, even if a little bit cartoony and low res. Course visuals are also pretty cool. A lot of different stuff that you go through here, a lot of different textures, a lot of different stuff you can interact with. I'm a big fan. The track design also is quite cool. I love all the shortcuts you can do, tons of split paths that you go through here. It is unfortunate that they took out the actual visuals for the conveyor belts, but it's definitely helpful to see those arrows. Great time on this track. Number 24, Shy Guy Falls. This is the first entrant in the top quarter of tracks, and to be honest, again, it lacks in music. While it is a lot better than some of the other ones I've mentioned, it is still not great, not a whole lot of interesting stuff going on. It does have a really strong suit in background visuals though. There's tons to see here, a lot of cool rock features, there's again a lot of lore. So many things that the Shy Guys are doing. Why are they mining? How did they build this? There's so many unanswered questions here, so much to look at. I'm a big fan. The track design, like I said, is great. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do here. Fun going up and down the waterfalls, some nice shortcuts, very satisfying to play. Vibe and course visuals are about the same. I do vibe a lot with this track. Not too much to say besides that. And the course visuals are quite cool with the waterfall. Number 23, Piranha Plant Cove. Honestly, I'm surprised this one places so high, especially based on my vibe. I don't know, I guess this one hasn't been out for too long, so I haven't gotten used to it, but there's not much for me to enjoy here, personally with the vibe. The track design, I think, is super cool though. There's a ton of different things that you go through. It's basically a 3-lapper, a bunch of different unique ideas that you go through, a bunch of split paths here. The music is also just barely through into the top half. Definitely pretty interesting, pretty unique. I'm a fan of it. Background visuals are pretty nice. You got a ton of cool underwater stuff. Some very interesting ruins above ground as well, but there is definitely some low-res stuff out in the distance. Course visuals are along the same lines, lots of cool stuff underwater, not too much on the outside. Yeah, that's about it here. Number 22, Maple Treeway. I think this was probably one of the Wii tracks I was most excited to see come to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I'm a big fan of this. It's got great vibes for me. Course visuals are also super cool for this track. It's very cool with all the different kind of tree visuals that you get, the wigglers, a lot of different kind of track designs that you get. Background visuals are along a similar line, while unfortunately there's not much more than the trees though, so this puts it a lot lower. The music I am quite a big fan of, although I swear there's a section where the sax and the accordion or whatever it is play out of tune with each other and I cannot unhear it. It drives me crazy. Track design, again, is pretty good on this stage. I am disappointed they put the glider in instead of the big bouncy net, but there's lots of cool shortcuts here, lots of really fun things to play. Number 21, Hyrule Circuit. The music on this stage rocks. I am, of course, a big Zelda fan. I played Tears of the Kingdom like crazy, so this one is pretty good for me. Background visuals, of course, are awesome with Hyrule Castle. Lots of cool stuff to see inside. Of course, there's not too much around, but the castle makes up for a lot of it. Same thing with the course visuals, not a whole lot outside, but you got the Master Sword that you're going through, you got the cool pathways through the castle. There's a lot to see here. Track design is also pretty decent. There's some cool places for shortcuts, and of course you can take the shortcut through the Master Sword. Strangely, even though I like Zelda, there's not a whole lot of vibe here for me. I guess when this came out, I was just kind of salty that they didn't put Captain Falcon in the game. I'm still mad about that. Why do they have Peachette in this game when Captain Falcon is literally a racer? Number 20, Bangkok Rush. First off, great name, can't go wrong with that. The music on this stage is honestly probably the best in tour. Got some great jazz stuff, awesome harmonies, really interesting instrumentation, super cool stuff. Background visuals, again with tour, you can't go wrong with. You got a lot of cool marketplaces, a lot of cool city stuff, the train station, good things. Even better with the course visuals, there's a lot of stuff you can interact with here. There is a lot of kind of generic track, but I think the diversity makes up for it here. Track design, again, is very cool. Probably not the best in the tour tracks, but it has some really interesting ideas, a lot of cool things that it brings you through, and a lot of shortcuts that you can go through, interesting decisions to make. For some reason, again though, the vibe isn't super high for me here. Kind of similar to the last one, can't really explain why. Number 19, Toad Harbor. The track design and course visuals on this are tied, and they are both stellar. There's a ton of cool course visuals to see on this track, a lot of different unique things that you go through. Of course, you got the trolleys, you got the castle area, you got the canopies. It's awesome. Track design is super cool. You got a ton of split paths, a couple interesting shortcuts that you can make, and you can also bounce off those trolleys for a ton of boost. Super fun to play. Vibe here is great. I just love the kind of ocean feel. Of course, being near the Jersey Shore, this reminds me a lot of that, and it's such a good time. Background visuals also are quite stellar. You got the huge kind of harbor town that you're going through, a lot of detail in there with the castle. It looks great. Statue of Liberty, there is liberty in Toad Harbor. Again, this track falls short with the music. Good vibes, but not anything interesting. Well, it looks like somebody forgot to record a track on their good microphone. So for now, enjoy my crunchy phone audio. Number 18, Super Bell Subway. The music on this track is very similar to all the other tracks that have some nice, good, chill beats. Something that you don't hear in this track, though, is in the second time around, if you're playing back on MKTV, you get this super cool accordion, so I don't know why they didn't put that in the whole track. Track design on this is quite good as well. It's kind of fun to have all the split paths in the subway, dodge the tracks, and a lot of good shortcuts here, I think. The vibe is quite high for me. I don't know, I think I just like the music, the background visuals are sweet. Speaking of background visuals, there's a ton of detail in this track. Something that you don't even notice is right at the start of the lap, it has lore. It shows all of the original tracks connected through a subway system. That is crazy. Course visuals are also great. Obviously, you got the whole underground subway section, you got the subway cars, just a lot of good stuff on this track. Number 17, Singapore Speedway. Honestly, I'm also surprised that this one has made this up so high, but when you look at the stats, it makes sense. I mean, the vibe, honestly, for me is pretty good. It's in the top half. The music is really fun, very exciting. Track design is off the charts. Basically a 3-lapper. You go through a ton of stuff. A lot of glider. You got that cannon. A lot of interesting decisions to make. Some cool shortcuts. Background visuals are also awesome. You got the classic Tour City Ferris wheel, but there's a lot of unique things to Singapore. The only thing that's really bringing this down is the course visuals, which honestly I'm surprised that we ranked this so low. I mean, to be fair, a lot of the track here is very generic, but there's a lot of interesting stuff too that you go through when you go through up onto the top of the hotel and go through some of the other places. So yeah, this is very deserving of a near 16th place. Number 16, Animal Crossing. This one is super fun. I love the idea that you have 4 different tracks all built into one with different visuals, different music. Of course, the music is great for this track. I did get the fall version, which is not my favorite. It's probably my second favorite, though. The winter is definitely the best for me, so there's just a lot to see here with the music. Track design on its own isn't too interesting, unfortunately. You do have the shortcut near the end, and it is cool that there's 4 different tracks. But other than that, it's fairly straightforward. Course visuals are probably even worse. It's just a lot of dirt, a couple bridges here and there, and maybe some water with the sand, but not great. Background visuals, though, are awesome. You got a ton of unique different things, different kind of tree patterns, different skyboxes. Obviously, with the winter one, it's very festive. Yeah, the vibe is off the train for this one. It's awesome. Number 15, Ninja Hideaway. Honestly, based on the stats I'm seeing here, it really does not look like this one should be placing that high, but it is. The vibe, it's decent, it's in the top half, but it's not anything like Tokyo Blur, which I thought was my favorite part of the first wave of DLC. Same thing with the music, it's pretty exciting, pretty engaging, but it's not anything special. Background visuals are definitely very cool. Of course, you got a ton of Wario lore here. Like, why did he build this place? I didn't even know he was a ninja. Does he have this whole, like, ninja entourage that keeps his massive wealth? I don't know. There's a lot of interesting questions here. The track design is also quite good. There's a lot of cool different shortcuts you can take, the cool split path in the first area, and of course the glider up through here. Honestly, what is the shining star of this is the course visuals. There's a ton of unique things here, a lot of interesting areas that you go through as you go through the hideout. Number 14, Grumble Volcano. The music it's okay. It is definitely engaging and exciting for races, but definitely pretty repetitive and not totally interesting. Background visuals are awesome for this stage though. I love the volcano feel. The volcanoes in the background are awesome. The weird little like snaky rocks to this cave section are very cool. The flying kind of meteors and the interesting like question mark blocks is very cool. Course visuals, unfortunately, are not quite as good. It's pretty much just some dirt, and you got the fireball guys here and there, but it's not too interesting. Track design is awesome. This is probably some of the most interesting track design before Tour, because the laps changed every single time. As different things could happen, the track could fall apart. Of course, the vibe here is great for me. Part of the Lightning Cup, a Wii stage, can't go wrong with that. Number 13, Moonview Highway. I do not remember the music going so hard to this in Wii. I mean, some of the licks that are in this are just crazy. I love this song now. Background visuals, they're decent. They're pretty much up there. They got the interesting city, but the city's kind of about it. So it's decently up there. Not really much to say about that. Course visuals are quite cool. You got the cars, which is always a good thing. Just a lot of interesting things going on. You got the unique bomb car. Track design is definitely quite good. You have a lot of cool shortcuts near the beginning, and I like that the cars are so sparse in this stage. You can see how much it makes a difference compared to the other car tracks, which are placed way lower. The vibe on this track is definitely not super high. This wasn't my favorite in the Wii, but it's definitely a good one for sure. Number 12, Cloud Top Cruise. We have finally made it to the Mario Kart race rankings with the top 12 here. Starting off very strong with Cloud Top Cruise, we got some awesome music. You got those Gusty Garden Galaxy references, you got the awesome trumpet, you got the interesting different track as you go through the Thundercloud. Great stuff. Track design is super cool here. I love having to go through the Thundercloud and trying to figure out which way to go. It's kind of different every time. You got the nice shortcut near the end, some split paths, very cool. Vibe is great on this one for me. I don't know why, just the feeling. I love Mario Galaxy, it's a good time. Course visuals are also super unique. I've done a ton of different kind of areas that you're going through, the bouncy things, the vine, the clouds. This is like Sky Garden, but straight up better. Unfortunately, it does also suffer background visuals similar to Sky Garden, kind of just clouds, vines, and airship. Number 11, Dolphin Shoals. My vibe definitely brings down the score of this track. I don't know, I just don't like it that much. I think it's kind of overhyped, so I don't play it too much. Background visuals aren't also super interesting. They're in the top half for sure. You know, you got the cool underwater stuff, you got the big dolphin rocks, but there's nothing too much. The course visuals are definitely a lot better. You know, you got the eel, you got the interesting pipes, some different areas that you go through. Very nice. Track design I also like a lot. There's some decent areas for shortcuts. You got the whole huge pipe split path area. And there's definitely, I feel like, a lot of opportunities for some cool tricks and passes here. Of course, you cannot go wrong with the music on this track. This solo is just crazy. Yeah, nothing to say about that. Hands down, awesome. Number 10, Wild Woods. Again, there's a lot of Shy Guy lore here. You got this huge tree with this whole Shy Guy village and going around doing things. Is this near the Shy Guy Falls? Are they connected somehow? I have so many questions. The course visuals here are also great. You got a lot of cool wooden stuff. You got stuff going down through the water. You got the leaves. Yes, very nice. The music, unfortunately, isn't quite as good. Definitely in the top half. Very interesting, but nothing stellar like the background visuals here. Track design, I think, is great. It's always fun for me going through the water pathways. Definitely a lot of good places for shortcuts here, some split paths. Very fun to play, I think, personally. The vibe is also really good for me. I don't know, big nature guy, this really feels good to me. Looks very cool, fun stuff. Number 9, Waluigi Pinball. Kind of interesting that this has ended up using the same music track as Wario Stadium, so that is ranked exactly the same, of course. But there's a lot of just amazing things on this track. The background visuals are super cool, the skybox is great, all the neon stuff, the cool shot of going through into the big pinball machine. You got like the whole like system of the kind of like marbles going through the pinballs. And of course, the course visuals follow suit with the pinballs and going through the pinball track. It's all super well themed and very cool. A lot of that also feeds into the track design as well, you know, following down through the pinball machine, going through with the pinballs, dodging the pinball bouncer things. Of course, not a whole lot of spaces for shortcuts, but still great. For all of this, the vibe is top notch. I love this stage. Number 8, Wii Rainbow Road. Honestly, for how I felt on this track in Mario Kart Wii, the vibe is a lot higher here in Mario Kart 8, and I think that's based on a lot of the other factors that we'll see here. The music is awesome. It's very similar to the N64 Rainbow Road. It's very cool and exciting. It feels like you've reached the end of a long journey. It's got that Wii vibe. The course visuals are also really cool. I love the Rainbow Road design here. You got some decent guardrails here, and you got the cool launcher section. You got the little like kind of tunnels that you go through, and the track design is awesome. There's a lot of cool tricks that you can do, a lot of interesting jumps that you can make, split pass. It's got it all, really. The only downside to this track is that it doesn't have super interesting background visuals. It's of course got a cool skybox in the Earth and a couple planets, but there's just not too much going on other than that. Number 7, Bowser's Castle. This music really rocks. I think it's really exciting, great for racing. I love how it kind of mixes up the hard rock with some winds. Very cool. Background visuals are awesome. The detail in the castle is super cool, and especially when you go up to the leading shot of the castle right before the start of the lap, it looks really cool. Course visuals are also awesome. I'm counting the big like lava Bowser as course visuals since you interact with him. That does a lot for this track. There's a lot of interesting obstacles that you interact with here. The track design is also great. The split path with the Molten Bowser, I feel like you actually have to make quality decisions with that. And there's a lot of obstacles that you have to avoid, some decent shortcuts that you can take through. It's great. I have a great vibe with this course. I think it's super fun to play. Yeah, really enjoy it. Number 6, Yoshi's Island. Of course, this has to be crazy high on the vibe meter for me. I was so excited to see this stage announced. Gotta love Yoshi. It's so fun. Love it. Music is awesome on this stage as well. I love when the saxes come in with the little jazz interpretation of the melody. It's so fun. They also have the unique ending theme at the end of the race, and that's great. The marimbas, or whatever the keyboard instruments are, is so silly. Background visuals are definitely really cool. I love the animated mountain. There's a lot of detail around you in the close quarters of the track. Lots of cool stuff to see. Same thing with the course visuals. Lots of unique things, the walking Shy Guys, cool obstacles, great stuff. Track design, of course, is really fun. Great shortcuts. That really challenging question mark cloud to hit is super fun. Yeah, just an absolutely joy to play. Number 5, Mute City. Some of you might be surprised at how high this music rates. I mean, obviously it's crazy, but I think it even gets a higher boost because of how exciting it is to race to. It's just so well fit. Of course, nothing can beat these background visuals. The detail in the city is insane. I'm sure you've seen the video where they zoom out and go through the track, but you cannot beat this. Course visuals, unfortunately, aren't quite as interesting. Of course, you do have the cool F-Zero track design, but there's just not as much unique stuff as the background. The track design of this course is also great. You know, you have this last segment, you get the huge jump with the shortcut. It's just really fun to play on fast tracks. Yeah, this is undeniably high in my vibe rankings. Even more fun to play, I would say, than the previous. Number 4, Mount Wario. This is one of 2 tracks that has all single-digit rankings. I mean, there is no stopping this track. You've got awesome music. It's dynamic for every part of the course that you go down. You got the crazy background visuals, so much detail, a lot of cool, interesting, like, ski lift themes. Course visuals, again, are so unique. Everything is different on every single lap of the track. There's just so much to see here. Of course, the track design is also crazy. I mean, you're going through a 3-lap track. There's just so much to see. A ton of different split paths, shortcuts, just a lot of cool tricks you can do, and just really fun to play. Vibe of this one is, of course, is crazy. My boy Majid, gotta love this one for Wario, and it's just so well designed. There's it's so exciting to play. The vibe on this one is just awesome. Receiving the bronze medal in the Mario Kart 8 official rankings, it is Squeaky Clean Sprint. The music on this stage goes absolutely crazy. This is like all of the nice cool vibe songs mixed with like the exciting ending of like N64 and Wii Rainbow Road. Oh, it's so great. The background visuals are also on par with Ribbon Road, very similar theme, just a little bit less detail, but it's still amazing. The course visuals are first for this. There is no beating it. There's just so much cool stuff to see, so many unique things that you go through, and just awesomely themed. The track design on this one is also great. I mean, the whole split path at the end, you can only get a chance to do it on the second lap, and there's just so much to see there. I keep discovering new stuff. Yeah, the vibe on this one is awesome. I know Ethan loves it, and it's just a joy to play with it. Receiving the silver medal in the official Mario Kart 8 Deluxe rankings, it is 3DS Rainbow Road. Oh man, dude, I love the music on this track. I love the retro vibe. It's got some really upbeat stuff, very exciting, and it's got that nice N64 Rainbow Road ending. Oh, it's so good. Background visuals are awesome. You got the really cool skybox, you got all the planets, you got the stuff on the moon with the spaceships and junk. It is super cool. Course visuals were just barely beat out by Squeaky Clean Sprint. I love this Rainbow Road design, and of course it fits in so well with all the other stuff, like when you go around the rings of the planet. It is just awesome. The track design on this is also stellar. A 3-lapper can never go wrong. It's just so well fit with the theme, just kind of builds on ideas, and it's just really fun to play, even if there aren't a whole lot of interesting shortcuts here. The vibe on this one, I can't really place it, but I just feel so good with this track. It's so fun to play. Receiving the gold medal in the official Mario Kart 8 Deluxe rankings. In first place, the winner of it all, it is Big Blue. There is absolutely no beating this track. It has first in 3 categories. The music on this track is just insane. The solo is crazy. The vibe is off the charts, so fun to race to. The track design is also insane. Tons of split paths, tons of awesome plays for shortcuts and cool tricks. A lot of interesting decisions, a lot of cool places where you can have a comeback. The background visuals are also stellar. A lot of cool stuff in the background. The only thing that this track lacks is course visuals, and even then it's in the top 20. It is so highly ranked. I love playing this stage. The vibe is like none other. It is a cut above everything else. So awesome. This is, I think, inarguably the best track in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Alright, we've made it all the way through our course rankings. Before we head to the rankings for the cups and games, let's take a look at all the superlatives for these tracks. Let's start off with the lowest priority. We got the course visuals. In the top 12, we have Rainbow Road, Ninja Hideaway, Hyrule Circuit, Mount Wario, Tick-Tock Clock, Toad Harbor, Waluigi Pinball, Electrodome, Bowser's Castle, Music Park, 3DS Rainbow Road, and Squeaky Clean Sprint. I think this is a pretty reasonable ranking. Definitely surprised that Rainbow Road got in here, but it definitely makes sense. Alright, let's head over to the vibe list. We've got Animal Crossing, Toad Harbor, Yoshi Circuit, Squeaky Clean Sprint, Mute City, N64 Rainbow Road, Merry Mountain, Mount Wario, 3DS Rainbow Road, Yoshi's Island, Tick-Tock Clock, and Big Blue. This definitely makes sense to me. Obviously, it is my vibe list, so that is all making sense. Alright, how about the background visuals? We've got Toad Harbor, Big Blue, Wild Woods, Waluigi Pinball, Tick-Tock Clock, N64 Rainbow Road, Neo Bowser City, Mount Wario, 3DS Rainbow Road, Squeaky Clean Sprint, Ribbon Road, and Mute City. Honestly, kind of surprised that Toad Harbor squeaked into this list. I'm very impressed though, very happy. Alright, now to the music list. We've got Bangkok Rush, Cloud Top Cruise, Wii Rainbow Road, Yoshi's Island, Dolphin Shoals, Animal Crossing, Mount Wario, Squeaky Clean Sprint, N64 Rainbow Road, 3DS Rainbow Road, Mute City, Big Blue. Again, this is pretty self-explanatory. These are all bangers, all very deserved of being in the top 12. And now, most importantly, the top 12 for the track design. We've got Wild Woods, Yoshi's Island, Mute City, Grumble Volcano, Music Park, Toad Harbor, Bowser's Castle, Waluigi Pinball, Mount Wario, Squeaky Clean Sprint, 3DS Rainbow Road, and Big Blue. This is honestly one that I'm very surprised by. Definitely took a lot of arguing between me and Ethan to sort out this list. But yeah, I think it is very well thought out here. Very happy with these lists. Alright, let's talk about how we did the rankings for the games and for the cups. For the cup, it's pretty straightforward. For every category, you sum up all 4 tracks in that cup and then average them. So it'll just be the sum of those 4 music scores, for example, divided by 4. And that goes for all of them all the way up through the weighted scores. The games are also very similar, except of course all the games have a different amount. So for example, Wii has 11 courses. For every category, it's the sum of those scores divided by 11 averaged out. so then everything is averaged evenly based on the number of tracks they have. Now let's take a look at where these games and these cups place amongst each other in both the subcategories and main ranking. Okay, let's take a look at all the different games that we've got in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. In order of course visuals, we've got GBA, GCN, N64, SNES, Tour, 3DS, DS, Wii, and 8. Definitely just surprised to see some of these rankings. DS is very high, I feel like. Tour is very low. Kind of surprised for some of these. What about Vibe? We've got GCN at the bottom, GBA, N64, Tour, SNES, Wii, 8, 3DS, and DS. I'm super surprised that DS is all the way at the top of this list. I thought it would be below 8 and Wii. I thought 8 would be at the top. So yeah, this is surprising to me based on the averages here. For the background visuals, we have GBA, SNES, GCN, N64, DS, Wii, Tour, 8, and 3DS. This list makes pretty much complete sense to me. Obviously, GBA, SNES, GCN are near the bottom, and 3DS, 8, and Tour are all the way up near the top. Makes a lot of sense to me. Music list. We've got GCN, SNES, N64, GBA, 3DS, DS, Wii, Tour, and 8. Again, this makes a lot of sense to me. 8, Tour, and Wii all have some crazy music. Comparatively, N64, SNES, and GCN don't have as much going on. Now what about the track design? In order, we've got GBA, N64, GCN, SNES, DS, 3DS, Tour, 8, and Wii. I'm honestly surprised that Wii made it to the top of this list. I didn't think overall the Wii design was super spectacular. I thought Tour would be near the top. But definitely the top 3 make sense, and the other rankings make a lot of sense to me. Alright, so overall, let's see what we've got. In 9th place, we've got GBA. In 8th, we've got N64. 7th, we've got GCN. 6th is SNES. 5th is DS. 4th is 3DS. 3rd is Tour. 2nd is Wii. And in 1st place, we've got Mario Kart 8. I'm definitely surprised that GCN is not lower. I thought N64 would be a little bit higher for me. But the top 5 absolutely makes sense to me. Alright, let's get into the cups here. I'll only be doing the top 12 to save some time. For course visuals, we've got Fruit, Spiny, Triforce, Moon, Mushroom, Leaf, Flower, Bell, Star, Feather, Lightning, and Special. Honestly, kind of surprised to see Special all the way up here. Also kind of surprised to see Fruit up here as well. But the rest of it makes generally sense. Again, a little surprised to be to see Mushroom and Flower in this ranking. Alright, now Vibe. We've got Acorn, Leaf, Feather, Spiny, Flower, Fruit, Crossing, Bell, Star, Moon, Egg, and Lightning. Once again, I'm really surprised to see Flower so high on this list. The rest of it makes sense, but I guess Toad Harbor does a lot for this cup. Alright, now to background visuals. We've got Boomerang, Egg, Acorn, Flower, Fruit, Feather, Spiny, Moon, Star, Crossing, Lightning, and Bell. I think a lot of people might be surprised to see how high a lot of the DLC cups place in this background visuals list. There's a decent amount that are in the top half. You would expect that not a lot of these would be placed there, but we have a decent amount here, so that's pretty good. For the music, we've got Lucky Cat, Fruit, Egg, Moon, Crossing, Feather, Cherry, Boomerang, Bell, Special, Triforce, and Star. I think almost all of these rankings are very surprising to me. I guess I never really thought about how the music adds up and averages out across the cups. Especially, for example, the Lightning Cup. I thought the music in the Lightning Cup was great, but it just barely didn't make it into this top half. It's at 13th. So yeah, kind of surprised with these. Alright, and track design. We've got Fruit, Special, Egg, Flower, Moon, Spiny, Turnip, Bell, Lightning, Acorn, Star, and Feather. Yeah, again, a lot of DLC tracks coming up into this list. I think a lot of that is due to the cool tour design. There's also just a lot of really good tracks in the DLC. So again, something people might not expect here. Alright, let's go through the whole overall list, starting from the bottom. We've got in 24th place, the Shell Cup. 23rd, we've got Banana. 22nd, we have got Rock. 21st is Mushroom. 20th, Golden Dash. 19th is Leaf. 18th is Propeller. 17th is the Lucky Cat Cup. 16th is Cherry. 15th, Triforce. Flower Cup is 14th. Turnip Cup is 13th. In 12th place we got Boomerang. 11th, Fruit. 10th, Crossing. 9th, Special. 8th, Acorn. We've got Spiny Cup in 7th. Egg in 6th. Moon in 5th. Feather in 4th. Lightning in 3rd. 2nd is Star. And the winner overall is the Bell Cup. There you go. That is the ranking of the cups. Alright, it is finally time. Let's take a look and compare the original game to the new DLC. For course visuals, we have got original beating the DLC. The course visuals here, the score is honestly not even close. There is an 8-point gap difference. This is not surprising to me. A lot of the course visuals are not quite as high quality in the DLC. Now what about vibe? Of course, original also beats out DLC here, not by quite as much, only about 6 points here, but that is definitely a significant factor. Vibe is definitely beat out. What about background visuals? Alright, again you've got original beating DLC. Again, not a surprise. Even here though, we've got less, maybe even a 5-point gap. Again, this makes sense with the lower quality background visuals. Okay, but now let's head to the music list. Here, we actually see that DLC has beat out the originals, and this is by a significant margin here too. That is a 2-point gap. Obviously not quite as large compared to the others, but this is a higher weighted category. And we'll see in the highest weighted category, track design, DLC also beats out the original games. And again, this is not close, it's 2-point difference. So it's very clear that the rankings between the original and the DLC are going to be super close here. And we can see that actually with the average balanced score. You can see one has a score of 48.101, and the other has a score of 48.893. This is less than a point gap. Okay, but which one does win? Of course, as you may expect, it is the original tracks. But the thing to keep in mind here is it is extremely close between these two. So I think overall, even though there were definitely some lacking tracks in the DLC, I think people tend to overlook a lot of the great stuff that has come through the DLC here. If you have made it this far into the video, thank you. You have probably sat through about 2 hours worth of video, and I know you're a true Mario Kart fan at this point. If you got this far, I'm sure you enjoyed, so of course, as is per usual, drop a like, send this to your friends, come at me in the comments, throw some shade, tell me my vibe ranking sucks. I don't care. I want to hear all of it. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you learned some interesting things about all these tracks, and happy karting.